I worked at a children's museum at the time and was around 19 years old. I had just finished my shift on the treetop walkway we had, and had walked inside to return the walkie-talkie we kept with us while out there. I leaned on the bar high guest services desk in front of my manager and waited for her to get off the phone so she could give me keys to the office where the walkie-talkies were kept. A middle-aged man came up to the desk next to me and started purchasing a membership. As he filled out the paperwork, he glanced over at me and we made eye contact. I gave him a friendly smile and turned back to fiddling with the walkie-talkie. Out of the corner of my eye I could see the man looking me up and down before saying in a painfully obvious fake British accent, "Hello, it's a pretty hot day out there today." I nodded and replied, "Yes it is, but I'll take this over the rain we had last week." He went on to say that where he was from it rained all the time, but with a pretty face like mine he was sure I could turn anyone's rainy day into a sunny one. I paused and tried to ignore the strange compliment. I asked where exactly he was from and he diverted the conversation to how his son loved the museum. "I'm glad to hear that," I said. "Do you like children? You must if you work here." "I have a son, he is great. It's just the two of us though. His mom left a few years ago, bitch. You're nothing like her. A girl like you is already so much better. I bet you're great with kids. I bet my son would like you," he said, flashing a wide toothy grin. I nodded, not quite sure what to say to that. Thankfully my manager was sitting right in front of me, listening to the entire ordeal while finishing up her phone call. At this point the two other girls behind the front desk had slowed down what they were doing to listen to our strange exchange. My manager finally saw the walkie-talkie in my hands and quickly handed me the keys to the office. "Well, I hope you guys continue having a great day here. It was nice to meet you," I said politely as I backed away. "And it was a treat to meet you as well," he said while handing his membership paperwork across the counter to my coworker. I went into the office and took much more time than was required to place the walkie-talkie on its charging station. After a few minutes I walked out of the office, and was about to leave when my manager called me over to the desk. "Did you know that guy?" she asked. I laughed a little. "Oh, definitely not," I replied. She sat back in her chair and the other girls looked at her in disbelief. "The second you left he completely dropped the British accent. He doesn't have one at all. He was faking it for you," she explained. My coworker shuddered and stated how creepy she thought it was, especially since he was in his late 30s. "Be careful leaving, make sure he doesn't follow you," my manager added. I said I would and left the building to go to my car. As I left I saw the man and his son looking at an owl in an enclosure just off the path. He was scanning the path up and down while his son pulled on his arm to try and get his attention. When he spotted me he started waving enthusiastically and trying to make his way towards me. Thankfully his son didn't want to move from the owl exhibit yet and was pulling on him to stay. As the man turned to say something to his son I turned down a different path so I didn't have to pass them and quickly made it to my car. As I left I saw him in my rear view mirror just make it to the parking lot and start to look around for me. To give you an idea of why I was out in the middle of the woods at midnight, I run cross-country collegiately. This means that I'm supposed to run every single day, 10 miles a day, and I can be particularly lazy about this. When you've been doing it for 7 years, it gets old quick. So more often than not my roommate and myself will put off our run until late because we struggle to find the strength during the rest of the day. Well, it turns out that we picked the wrong night to be lazy. As 11 p.m. starts to roll around, I told my roommate Matt that we need to get our miles out of the way. He agreed and we both lace up, grabbed our flashlights, and left our dorm. We live on a decent-sized campus with a lot of woods on the back of it and a full-sized golf course, so we decided to run on the trails out there. At night it is pitch black and can be hard to see the path even with flashlights, but it breaks the monotony of running the same routes, and we happen to like the adrenaline of being creeped out. So we began our run and started heading towards the woods. Instead of taking the normal trail that leads right through the middle of the golf course, we elected to take a different entrance, and eventually we realized we were lost. It was still possible to see the clock tower on campus from where we were at, so we knew we just had to head in that direction to get home. I wasn't too sure of how to get there from the course path, so we just stopped our run and walked directly through the woods and trees until we ended up on another green of the course that I have never been to before. While we were trying to get our bearings, I noticed a flickering light in the distance. I asked Matt if he saw it also, and he just nodded as we both stared. Slowly but surely, this light got closer and closer. It wasn't long until we realized it was another flashlight from someone on the trail. As I watched the light bob up and down, I began to comprehend what this meant. We weren't alone out here. That didn't make any sense though. It's almost midnight. Why would someone be 5 miles into the middle of the golf course at this time? Why are they alone? What could they possibly be doing? We were sure it wasn't maintenance, because the maintenance building shuts down at 5 p.m. and they wear bright green to give notice to golfers, safety reasons. Soon enough, the silhouette of a tall man came into view, and the distance between us and him was only brought down to 50 feet or so. He stopped dead in his tracks and we just continued to stare. This really only lasted a minute, but it felt like forever. The man did not seem fazed by us and started walking towards us, but then made a quick turn to the right, which was where the green ended and the woods began, uphill at that. Right before he entered the woods, he turned back to face us. As he did this, he shined his flashlight up at our faces, the kind of way you do to blind someone, and all we heard was the massive footsteps of this guy sprinting and the heaving of his breath. With that very moment, we took off. Let me tell you, I have never ran that fast in my entire life, even being a collegiate runner. We ran and never looked back until we made it to the street that our campus begins on. I don't know what that man wanted or why he was in the woods so late, but he clearly intended harm to us. This isn't our first weird occurrence in the woods at school, so I may post more soon. I always hated taking the bus from my dad's house when I was in middle school. Where he lived is hard to explain. Basically, there's a highway, and on one side you have the bay lined with affluent waterfront houses, and the other side was cheaper, kinda swampy land. Mostly woods with trailer parks and run-down houses. Rich side / poor side type deal. We lived on the bay side, but the only bus stop nearby was across the highway and down a small dirt road. It was the end of the line, farthest away from the school buses will go. If you lived any farther, you were in another school. This meant I was the first stop in the mornings as the driver made their way towards school. To catch the bus, I had to walk down the street, cross the highway, 1 lane each way, not bad, and make my way down this dirt road. Mind you, this was all before 5 a.m., so especially in winter months it was still pitch black out when the bus came. The old dirt road was kind of creepy, even in daylight. It had that country feel, like you were in the middle of nowhere. I had grown up there and spent a lot of time on family land in Alabama as well, so it wasn't anything I felt too afraid of. I just didn't particularly like being there alone in the dark a few mornings every week. I walked to the bus stop one morning and everything about it seemed wrong. From the time I walked out the front door, something seemed off. I made my way to my bus stop and stood there waiting, not able to shake this creepy vibe. There's no houses around this spot, just woods on both sides. I start hearing something in the woods in the distance behind me. Something moving through the brush, but very slowly. I kept hearing it. Something would move a bit then stop for a while. At first I thought I was just being paranoid, but I could definitely hear something and my mind was filled with thoughts of what it could be. A snake? No, sounds like steps. A dog? No, wouldn't move like that. A pig? Sounds like it's stepping too carefully to be a pig. I kept looking back, but it was pitch black and I couldn't see much of anything. Every time I turned around it seemed to stop for a bit then proceed when I faced the other way. Whatever it was seemed to be watching me, and it seemed to be getting closer. I'm really starting to get creeped out. I keep telling myself I'm just being paranoid, it's just a bird or something, whatever it is will go away, etc. Where is this damn bus already? Minutes were starting to feel like hours the closer this thing got. It didn't seem far off, just walking one step at a time, inching closer. I felt like a mouse being stalked by a cat. It suddenly got really quiet. I heard a twig break right behind me. Whatever this was is now just inside the woods directly behind me. I froze out of fear, fully expecting some wild animal to leap out at me. I kept my back turned, hoping my backpack would help shield me from whatever was about to jump me. That was when I heard it. Clear as day, absolutely no doubt in my mind what that was anymore. It was a cough. A human cough. A muffled human cough. I now knew there was a man hiding in the woods directly behind me. It was unmistakable. Panic sunk in. This has been going on for a while, and the noises would stop/start when I would look around. This person was inching closer to me this whole time and trying to muffle his coughing so I wouldn't hear it. There's no way this is someone here innocently. I didn't know what to do. I turned around facing the woods, bracing myself to be attacked, still unsure exactly where this person is. I want to run back to my dad's, heavily armed, house, but I'm scared they're waiting for me to turn around to leap out. Just as I'm about to book it, the bus turns on the street, lighting up the area with its headlights. I stayed facing the woods until I heard the bus door open directly behind me. I jumped on that bus and hauled it straight to the back seat. I knew it was unlikely someone would follow me onto the bus, but if they did, I was damn sure getting out that emergency door and to my dad's real quick and in a hurry. I made it all the way to the back before I realized the bus had already driven off and I was safe. I sat in the back corner of the bus thinking about what had happened the whole way to school, but I didn't tell a soul. I was still in shock that it happened, and didn't want to be embarrassed if people didn't believe me. I don't think I ever rode the bus from that stop again. Years later I found out that whole area around the dirt road is filled with sex offenders and other criminals. My best guess is that someone had seen me at that stop before and was there waiting for me. Probably a pedophile. Maybe they hesitated too long? Maybe they were sneaking up too slow. Maybe they panicked after the cough or the bus came too soon. I'll never know, but it creeps me out to this day knowing someone was watching me, and I cringe to think of what could have happened that morning, so close to home.